Mastering fighting in Fortnite is down to 5 key principles. If you become an expert in each of these 5 principles, you will find yourself unstoppable during fights. Every player's Fortnite game is different. You may have already mastered 2 or 3 of these 5 principles. However, to master fighting as a whole, you have to be absolutely perfect in all 5 of these areas. So today I'll go into detail and tell you how you can be dominant in every one of these 5 aspects, and therefore master the art of fighting within Fortnite. The goal today is for you to come away from this video knowing which areas you need to improve to become the best. I put a lot of work into these types of videos for you guys, so a like on the video would be much appreciated. If you could also use code Calstaar in the Fortnite item shop, that would be massively helping me out. Key fighting principle number 1 is awareness. The reason we are starting with awareness is because it is without a doubt the most important factor behind winning fights. One mistake a lot of very high skilled mechanical players make is they lose track of their opponents because they are playing too fast. If you play slow enough but still effective to the point where you will always know where your opponent is, then you will easily be able to eliminate them if they make a mistake. The key to eliminating players as quickly as possible is taking advantage of any mistakes they make and punishing them for it. If you are losing track of your opponents during a fight, then without a doubt you need to work on your awareness. Focus on both audio and visual awareness and combine the two to ensure you always know where your enemy is and what they are doing. One instant tip I can give to help you with awareness is make sure you have visual sound effects enabled. This way, if you cannot hear them clearly enough, you are still aware of the direction your enemies are coming from. Another tip is to stop tunnel visioning. When you get an opponent weak, this is great, but you cannot let yourself lose track of everything else going on around you, or this will lead to you going straight back to the lobby. Moving on, we're going to talk about mastering defensive play within fights, and this is extremely important. I'm sure you all have that one friend that makes 15 metal boxes in 1v1s and you no longer have any idea where he is. Well, this in a way is defensive fighting. However, to master the principle, you must be much more advanced than this. Of course, building more than usual is definitely necessary, but you have to take opportunities as they present themselves to you, regardless of how difficult they are. Now what I mean by this is if you are playing defensive, then you have to deal damage to your opponent as they attack you. This would most commonly be through executing peeks at the perfect time. Peeks are extremely useful on aggressive players as they will allow you to get a shot on your opponent without them even being able to see you if the peek is performed perfectly. We will go into huge detail on how to peek perfectly later on in this video. A tip for you about peeks is to ensure that you have either a cone or a stair in your box before you peek. This can also be known as pre-piece control. If you fail to do this, any above average player will punish you by placing either a cone or ramp in your box as you attempt to take a peek on them. The next essential to mastering defensive play is decision making. Key decision making can be the difference between a game-changing refresh or you going straight back to the lobby. Let me give you an example. If you've been tagged for 170 damage, leaving you on 30 HP, what would your first thought be? To pop a mini or to focus on dealing damage back to your opponent? Now, if your answer isn't focusing on dealing damage, then this is something you need to work on. Think about this. If you get hit again, you are most likely going to get pumped for around 100 damage. So what is the difference between being on 30 HP and 55 HP? It really does not matter. You need to focus on damaging your opponent through methods such as peeks or pre-fires, so they have no option but to back up and heal. This will give you the time to heal properly. This is how crucial decision making is, and it will come from hours and hours of in-game experience. As I just mentioned, pre-fires are another great way to deal damage while on the defense in fights. A great example of this is being able to shotgun your opponent in the time they are pickaxing your wall. This all comes down to timing, and if you can line up a shot right, you can easily hit them for well over 100 damage. One tip I will mention is be careful trying to pre-fire when enemies are spraying your walls with an AR or an SMG, because if you're extremely weak, it is very possible a bullet or two gets through your wall and eliminates you, especially if you're a player with higher ping than average. Let's move on to the third principle, which is mechanics. Mechanics are probably the most spoke about aspect for any competitive Fortnite player. Mechanics have been a very important part of the game for a very long time, and I can guarantee that many of you watching this video have the level of mechanics you need to compete at a high level. However, think about this for a second. Why do you think there are ridiculously talented creative warriors with crazy mechanics who became practically useless when they play in-game? This is because having quick mechanics and having good mechanics are two completely different things. The reason mechanically gifted players fail in tournament scenarios is because they are way too focused on going for a clip or looking good instead of focusing on the player they are actually fighting. Linking back to the awareness section, they are missing out on key opportunities to eliminate opponents because they are too focused on their building and editing. If you think there's a slight chance you may be doing too much or are too fast mechanically, then there's a high probability that you actually are. The one thing for you to take from this video, if nothing else, is that having slower and efficient mechanics but better awareness is much better than having faster mechanics but absolutely no idea where your opponent is at any given time. For the fourth key principle, we have peaks. In my opinion, having effective peaks are not spoke about anywhere near enough. Abusing the third person feature within Fortnite so you can shoot your opponent while they cannot see you at all is literally the most overpowered feature in the game. So it is so important you learn to master this principle. There are two main peaks you need to master, and I'm sure you've seen all the pros doing these: window peaks and the so-called peanut butter peaks. Let's start with window peaks. Let's imagine you are fully boxed up and want to perform a peek. In most cases, you'll want to use the right tile, as this creates a much smaller gap than the center tile. This means it's much easier for you to be behind it. Remember, the aim is for you to be able to see them, but they cannot see your character at any time. Make sure you are completely behind the peak before confirming your edit. Strafe to the right, get your shot off, and then quickly cancel your movement by strafing to the left before you come into your opponent's view. Let me quickly show you how to perfectly do a peanut butter peek. You need to edit the 3 tiles on the top right of the wall to make a triangle. One mistake so many players make is confirming the edit while their head is still showing. If you do this against any average player, you'll be massively punished. For reference, use the grey see-through line on the wall as a line to keep your head below before confirming the edit. Then be as close to the wall as possible and strafe forward and left at the same time while shooting your opponents above the build. A quick tip I've seen from one of the best peekers in the game, Asian Jeff, is to make sure a floor is placed above you when performing this peek. This way you'll be pushed down quicker, giving your enemy even less of a chance to trade damage. If you want to practice peeks effectively, so you know you are not peeking at all, then you need to use this map. I will leave the code on screen now and in the description. The aim is to perform both the peanut butter and the window peek I have just showed you. However, you will have visual and audio alert from the bot tagging you if you are peeking too heavily. If you are not getting tagged by the bot, then there is certainly no chance a player will be able to hit you in game. Our last but definitely not least principle is piece control. Performing piece control is the most important factor to ending a fight as quickly as possible. Ending fights in the shortest amount of time is a key skill you need to have to master the art of fighting, and having exceptional piece control can allow you to do exactly that. To master piece control, you have to understand the grid system perfectly and understand exactly where your builds will place. From this, you are able to predict where your opponents may go and claim builds, also known as piece, in those specific areas. Now, Fortnite has been around for a very long time, so many players know how to do basic piece control. To take your game to another level and master piece control, you will need to practice peak piece control. This is very similar to the peak strategies we just spoke about. You can see examples of this in the background footage. However, you'll be using these same peaks to piece your enemy before dealing any damage. This way, they will not be able to run after your peak shots, and you'll be able to get the elimination in that very moment, meaning your fights will end much faster and you'll find yourself getting third-partied much less. Piece control can be as simple as retaking walls to using peak piece control, but you have to be able to do all aspects in order to master the skill. So guys, we have just gone over the 5 key principles you need to learn to master fighting within Fortnite. As I said at the beginning of the video, you should now be aware which of the 5 principles are your weaknesses and what you can do to improve those areas of fighting that you struggle with. Let me know in the comments which principles you need to work on. If you feel this video has helped you in any way, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more content just like this one. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.